Okay, so welcome to the miracle work today. And we're in the chapters 4 and 5, but now actually in chapter 5. And we continue our journey, and it's interesting how that goes. Really interesting to be, say, active on such a basic level, you could say. Very basic, but very good to hear it once again, or hear it for the first time, or maybe hear it for the first time. Yeah, even though you've heard it 1,000 times. So this all is part of the miracle work. Like, we're in a new episode where we continue to discover all that is given and that we have been denying as human beings, but actually we're rediscovering it. It's like we rediscover our true purpose and our true identity. And yeah, so today we continue with chapter 5, healing and wholeness. But see, we're talking more about like the Holy Spirit and the function of the Holy Spirit, the say the Holy Spirit as the principle or the idea of atonement, and the Holy Spirit is idea of your whole mindedness, of your whole mind. And so you don't have to make up ideas around it. So it's not that we are, say, reconstructing another self-image made with ideas that you think about them. So now I will be just sharing what it says in this in the chapter as we go through it. And yeah, today's it's another beautiful part that comes to us. See, don't underestimate the loveliness of all this. It's like there's such an incredible loveliness related to this. So it's in fact so sweet and beautiful, you could say. Like, it's so beautiful because it's the truth about you, and the truth about you is is like amazingly lovely and amazingly beautiful and amazingly joyous. So it's we deal here with a delicacy or an yeah, a value that is beyond any compare. Literally, like totally, completely beyond compare. There's nothing where it can compare with that is related to ideas that we hold right now. So this is a bit where we enter into today. It's like we're gonna see some say some parts will reveal just this little bit of that, and you see like, oh, that is so lovely, I cannot believe it, how beautiful is that. And so this is what I share with you in the sheets that I made. For instance, in the prayer that we will pray, in fact it is a wordless prayer, but in the prayer itself we use words to undo them, in fact, to undo beliefs and ideas. So in the light of recognition of our wholeness and returning back to that in our full awareness, like letting that come into our full awareness, is where we are doing the miracle work. And it seems, the work seems like you're doing something, and in a certain sense you are actively, in fact, giving up, actively giving up your resistance to receiving the love of God. So that if you call that a doing, that's fine with me, with you. So the mind of the atonement, that's where this chapter is, part of the chapter, this section is about the mind of the atonement. Yeah, atonement, you can call it a reconciliation, you can call it undoing, you can call it returning, the crossing over, the being carried over, being, say, awakened. So all this is in fact in relationship. It is the same stuff, like atonement, healing, wholeness, joy, love. It's all the same stuff. So the mind of the allness, you could say too, the mind of wholeness. This just to give you an idea how, I say, how incredibly wholeness is. Like there's no separate parts. So that's what we keep in mind. Now, there seem to be separate parts, the miscreations of the children of God. God honored, here it says, God honored even the miscreations of his children because they had made them. Because he loves his children so much, he honored even his the miscreations of his children. Even though that is impossible, like miscreating is in fact an impossibility, it must be an illusion. But since we stepped right into that and made ourselves believe in it, even that God honored his children, and he blessed them with a way of thinking. And this is interesting. So God also blessed you with a new way of thinking about them, about the miscreations, that could raise their perception, raising your perception until they became so lofty, so incredibly lovely and lofty, that they could reach almost back to him. So God honored even the miscreations of his children because they had made them. But he also blessed them with a way of thinking, and you can call this a new way of thinking, about the mistakes, the miscreations, that could raise their perceptions until they become so lofty that they could reach almost back to him. Okay. Well, that sounds really great. That sounds lovely. And in fact, it is what we are discovering in this miracle work. So the Holy Spirit is the mind of the atonement. The Holy Spirit is the mind of the atonement. The Holy Spirit is the mind of wholeness, of complete joy, of healing, you could say. The mind of the reconnecting with truth, having truth fully in your awareness. It represents a state of mind that comes close enough to one-mindedness that transfer is at last possible. Transfer of perception, like transfer of true perception into an idea of knowledge. Transfer depends on common elements in the old learning and in the new situation to which it is referred. Okay, so yes, indeed. So transfer depends on, see, if what is given you right now, for instance, would be so abstract that you could not relate to it, it would not be very helpful for you. Right? So I can talk about, say, the abstractions of the divine order, but you would not recognize any of it. Like you would simply not recognize it because there are not common elements in it that are related to your human thinking. Now here it is like the Holy Spirit literally helps crossing this gap, say, in ways that you can still recognize what this is about. Forgiving your brother, seeing that there's mistakes instead of sins, seeing that the past is over, seeing that this and that, all the things that we talk about in the recognition of your human life or human existence is specially made for that. Like the Holy Spirit is specially bridging the gap between that and your, say, divine order. So that's his functions, like that's the function. So it's like the perception is going to be like the healing that is taking place, the undoing of you that is taking place in a way that you come with the way that you start to see, like introducing Christ vision to come into you, seeing things, say, beyond the form, seeing, recognizing the communication that is possible, say, not being afraid to experience the love that you are and recognizing your brother very practically, you know, with characters that you can actually recognize, that you can see, like this, like you can see me. So this is, you recognize this symbol, this physical figure that is talking to you. So this is specifically done. And what now the bridging that is taken care of is in fact putting you with this expression, putting you in a place where you can actually come to and say an increased receptivity, so that, say, literally your consciousness is open enough to receive the love of God. Not that it went anywhere, it is always with you, but to have that fully in your awareness. Now this is exactly what the Holy Spirit is for. It's like we share one inspiration. We share one inspiration. And you can call it, give it a name, but that's not, yeah, we can call it spirit, right? And so the inspiration that is common, that we recognize in each other, is in fact what binds us, what is universal, that is undeniably universal. Now this is going to be our help to being brought to the place, like in front of the gate of heaven, as it says in the Course many times, like in front of the gate of heaven, so that the transfer into a heavenly consciousness, so to speak, becomes like a very little step. A step that you don't even have to take. And you'll see that later on too in what we share. So this is the story, in fact. This is the image that is related to that. Common elements that you can recognize, like common elements that you can recognize, you have still like a body talking to you, so to speak, and voice speaking to you that you can hear with your senses and see with your eyes. And now, slowly but certainly, you go beyond that. You discover, yeah, this voice is speaking, this mouth is moving, and there's an expression there, and but what it's referring to is, say, beyond the form, is beyond the whole idea of that I see, or the whole perception that I see. It is beyond that. I can feel that. So something is going on, and slowly but certainly I allow that to influence me, so to speak, or I'm open to receive that for myself. And in that, something changes in me, because I experience something else. The perception and the recognition of the common elements is no longer of that much importance anymore. It's like, I don't care how that looks, or I don't care how it sounds, but I recognize the truth and the inspiration that I get from it. I recognize that as my own, you know. So this is what is happening. And in fact, the way that I'm sharing this with you, it becomes very practical, in fact. But you see, like, you go beyond the form, even though you use the form temporarily to have an entry into a whole new way of seeing things, like recognizing your Christ vision, coming to the seeing that there's one thing going on. Your mind is whole. Like, there's a relationship between all things that I used to see with my eyes as separate, but I actually recognize the connectedness between all of that. Now, this is then really the function of the mind of the atonement. So the mind of the wholeness, comes literally into you. Like, it was there was no necessity for it before the separation, before you came into ideas of miscreation. You know, before that, there was no use for an Holy Spirit. So the Holy Spirit came after, in the moment that the separation took place, that you could have a thought separate from God in your imagination, there also was then the Holy Spirit. So it's like the corrective procedure was sent with it. It was the same, it was part of the same thing. So we use that temporarily until you see there's no necessity anymore to, and no tendency and no recognition of separation whatsoever. And with that, you, in fact, the Holy Spirit dissolves into, the Trinity that it's a whole part of. It's like there's no need for it anymore, for a bridge gapping what, if there's a recognition of wholeness. So perception is not knowledge, right? No, we know this. Perception is not knowledge. It has nothing to do with that. But here's the point of transition, you could say, of transferring. But it can be transferred to knowledge. Perception can be transferred to knowledge or cross over into it. And cross over into it, you could see as carried over, for the last step is taken by God. So the Holy Spirit, the shared inspiration of all the sonship, induces a kind of perception in which many elements are like those in the kingdom of heaven itself. So this is a beautiful, say, visual even that you get. It's like a visual. So perception is not knowledge. Perception is not knowledge. We know this. But it can be transferred into knowledge. How is that possible? Well, I just brought you already to this point. It's like to the recognition of this, like your perception can go beyond the form. You know that, in fact, looking at what I'm saying, and we can use this like right here, looking at what I'm saying as words and sound, it would make no sense. Like, yeah, you could listen to it forever. That does not do anything. But starting to recognize what is being shared and where it's referring to, you go beyond the form and actually relate to it as a recognition, like you resonate with the frequency that it holds. And you start to hear or receive information, you could say, in that frequency that have nothing to do with the words that I'm saying, but you are actually coming to a recognition. And that is a frequency in which you are receiving what you need in the moment, because it's related. It's say, part of wholeness. Well, this is really something else. You know, this is, you recognize this, even in this instant, you recognize that. Now, that frequency, that recognition of frequency, and say your focus on it or being open to receive more, is giving you the opportunity to suddenly come into, say, the realm of knowledge, where we're not talking about facts any longer, or trying to understand it or anything like this. No, knowledge actually brings you into the sphere of knowing. And knowing is, say another word, you could say, for complete certainty. And that is your natural state, is that certainty. But you cannot learn it, you cannot know. It's a recognition. So in perceiving first, common elements, yes, going beyond the form, recognizing the frequency, joining with the light that is related to it, receiving that light in yourself, having a deep recognition with that, immediately opens up the realm of knowledge. And yeah, it says here too, say there are common elements with heaven, because what is heaven but being completely conflict free, fully in recognition of your true identity, and say swimming or residing in a certainty that goes beyond all opposites and all doubt, all sorrow, all lack, all limitation, all of that. So these elements you recognize, you know they are there. And like I said, if you receive this for yourself, coming into receiving the light and the frequency to say be in the realm of knowledge, you come immediately also in the sphere of complete certainty and complete fulfillment and complete complete identity, a whole identity. All right, so that's what is being shared here in this part of the chapter. So I'm sharing with you a little bit more. Okay, so first, talking about the elements of the the heavenly realm. First, its universality is perfectly clear, and no one who receives it could ever believe for an instant that sharing it involves anything but gain. Like one of the principles of heaven, you could say, one of the common elements in knowledge, but also in the heavenly order, is everything that's going to be received or given can only be but gain. It can only be like a win-win situation on a continuing basis. It's an expanding win-win situation in which literally come into creation. Second, it is incapable of attack and therefore truly open. There is nothing in it that can attack, that knows of attack. Like literally attack is outside of knowledge. This means that although it does not engender knowledge, it does not obstruct it in any way. This means that although it does not engender knowledge, it does not obstruct it in any way. So the perfect perception, like the whole perception, does not obstruct knowledge in any way. It is incapable of attack. And its universality is perfectly clear. There's a win-win, an increasing win-win situation where you give to. Like you can only add your joy to it. It is like the best party you ever went to. Whatever you give to it increases the joy. And you only feel that you can add your joy to it. And seeing that that's the only thing that's happening. Okay, continuing. Finally, it points the way beyond the healing which it brings and leads the mind beyond its own integration into paths of creation. So the awakening then, the opening up to knowledge, the coming to a whole perception, recognizing the truth of your brother and yourself, still using some of the, say, symbols that you know from perception, but using it in a very specific way, like you could call it your happy dream, your healing consciousness. It points the way beyond the healing which it brings and leads the mind beyond its own integration into paths of creation. Like, oh yeah, so healing is not creating, it's reparation. So it's repair work to get everything right. So to get everything undone that's in the way of completely being free of attack and, say, limitation. Healing is not creating, it's reparation. The Holy Spirit promotes healing by looking beyond it to what the children of God were before healing was needed and will be when they have been healed. Have been healed is then being in the full recognition of their wholeness. So healing is not creating, its reparation, but that's not going to take forever. You know, the healing part is a temporary, say, phase in the awakening. It's a temporary phase. As soon as you go beyond that, as soon as you are healed, that is not a point any longer. Like then you come into the realm of creation. The Holy Spirit is in you in a very literal sense. It is the voice that calls you back to where you were before and will be again. So the Holy Spirit is in you in a very literal sense. It's voice that calls you back to where you were before and will be again. So that is the still small voice. So the Holy Spirit is the still small voice, but the still small voice is not like your navigator in how to live your human life. No, it has a very specific function. It's calling you back to where you were before and where you will be. It calls you home. Like whatever it will instruct you is a step towards coming home, your homecoming. Like it's always a step toward that. Now, your own ideas, as you know them so well, and you got so done with them, so sick of them, so to speak, are always pointing away from it. Like you cannot come up with ideas that actually bring you closer to it, to the recognition of your wholeness. So here then, it is really, you see the necessity to listen to the still small voice, not as necessarily as a navigator for your daily decisions or whatever. Of course, that too, but know that beyond that, it's always pointing to where you were before and where you will be forever. Like it brings you back home. So that is its function, not to have a better way of dealing with the world or a better way of dealing with the limitations that you encounter. Like, no, it's actually going beyond that. So you can say like you listen to the guidance of the Holy Spirit in your daily life, sure, and it will help you absolutely, but that is only its temporary function. So in the end, like in terms of full integration, you come to the place where you are healed and you recognize your wholeness. Then you start creating as a co-creator with God. So it's like it's not to make it comfortable here with the Holy Spirit or something, to improve your existence with spirit guidance so that your human existence becomes more full. No, it's like, no, this is a temporary undoing because none of this is so, and the Holy Spirit instructs you continuously in the direction of where you were before. So that's good to keep in mind. That's why I repeat it a couple of times. It's like, oh yeah, okay, let's get this straight, so to speak. Let's oversee what's actually occurring. That's just for yourself, not even to linger in that longer than is necessary. Okay, so here, one more sheet I think I got here for you. The Holy Spirit is the motivation for miracle-mindedness. The Holy Spirit is the spirit of joy. The Holy Spirit is the call to return with which God blessed the minds of the separated sons in their own imagination. So the Holy Spirit is the call to return with which God blessed the minds. So the Holy Spirit was God's answer to the separation, the means by which the atonement could repair until the whole mind returned to creating. So it's a temporary device, just like our miracle-mindedness is a temporary say capacity or possibility for you. It's not going to last forever, but it's helpful to recognize. So it's helpful also to be active with it, to have, say, miracles as your daily work, you could say. And what does that actually mean when I say that? So I can say that. But so in fact, and this is really how it is in fact it is not standing in the way for you and your brother to recognize where you truly abide, where you truly are, that you're from the same place and that you are returning with your brother to that same place that you will always be, that you've never lost. So the miracle work is then the recognition of giving this to your brother, recognizing that in this new, say, way of looking at it, my giving to it is always a gain. My receiving it is always a gain. It's a win-win situation on a continuing basis. The healing of your brother is your freedom. The smile on the face of your brother is your healing. The recognition of his homecoming is your freedom. You know, so this is the miracle work. Starting to recognize more and more and more on a daily basis, on a, say, however often that can happen to you in all the situations that are given for you to perform this. Literally, I'm saying this not as an accident, it's like all situations that are given you to perform this. In the first page of the Urtext it says, show me, this is your daily prayer, show me which miracles to perform today. So I don't have to make them up. No, they will be given, that the circumstances will be given to shift into, with your brother, into a sphere of celestial order, to have a moment of recognition, of sharing the joy that is actually a whole part of you and your brother, sharing the same, say, recognizing the universal inspiration that is the spirit of you and your brother, and sharing in the joy of that. Like, that's the great thing. So yeah, that's however that can look, you know, it's like it can be so simple, and it is completely inspired. So you never know how this is going to look. Like this morning I was just looking at one of the meditations, and then I started to translate it, and I had a translation of someone else giving that. I recorded it myself too. So now there's like, it is referring the secret of peace. We're referring that to one another. It's like, remember, and tell me in your language. You know, it's like, tell it to me in your language. I want to hear it with your words, with your voice, with your, to go beyond your voice and your ears, but going to the recognition of our wholeness and loveliness that is beyond any kind of definition. So for instance, that was just an example of being inspired in the universal connectedness with my brother, in all the lovely recognition of that, adding my joy to it. It's like, oh yeah, I want to record it myself too. I want to be part of this. Do you want to be part of it? You are part of it. And can I do something for that? Yes, you can. Absolutely. And yeah, it doesn't need to be a recording or anything, but it's like the ways that it will be given are spontaneous. They will just be given to you in this instant. That works. That is pointing to the place that we know, that we that we will return to in full awareness. So that is the loveliness. That's just an example of it, but it's really lovely. So yeah, so this is great to do this miracle work. You see how practical it is. It is all in a literal sense. Like Holy Spirit is in you in a literal sense. Like He is bridging the things that you are seeing, the moments that you allow yourself to go beyond what you see and what you hear, into as far as you go out into the universe, you could say, as far as you go out into the universe in total recognition of your, say, perfection, and adding your joy to it, just like anyone with that recognition will add their joy to it, and making this like allowing this to be what it is. So beautiful. So that's what's happening in the miracle work. So this is just chapter 5, the third section. And you see it like it all has the wholeness of it in it. So it doesn't matter which part we take out of it. It all refers back to the wholeness and the universal inspiration that we recognize. That's so great, you know, that's totally lovely. My sight goes forth to look upon Christ's face. Wow. I ask your blessing on my sight today. It is the means which you have chosen to become the way to show me my mistakes and to look beyond them. Ah, wow. It is given me to find a new perception through the guide you gave to me. And through his lesson to surpass perception. To surpass perception. Literally what we were just sharing. And to return to truth. To what we know. To what is ours. To that what we can never lose. I ask for the illusion which transcends all those I made. I ask for the illusion that transcends all those I made. Common elements, like we're in the borderland. We ask for the illusion. You can call it forgiveness. Like we ask for the forgiveness, for the illusion that actually is going to help us out of this mess, to help us to get out of this mess into the celestial order recognition that we have never left. So in other words, we ask for an illusion to repair this illusion so that what is left after that, so the healing that can take place, becomes complete and fully, say, ready to come into this sphere of celestial order that you have never left. But I love this. This is so exactly what we just shared. Today, I choose to see a forgiven world in which everyone shows me the face of Christ, and teaches me that what I look upon belongs to me, like the universal recognition. What I look upon belongs to me, that nothing is except your Holy Son. So this we ask. So what do we ask for? We ask for the illusion, the temporal illusion of healing, of coming to our wholeness, of having, say, true perception come to us so that we can enter into the sphere of knowledge. Today our sight is blessed indeed. We share our vision as we look upon the face of Him whose self is ours. We are one because of Him who is the Son of God, of Him who is our own identity. We are one because of Him who is the Son of God, of Him who is our own identity. My sight goes forth to look upon Christ's face. So yeah, this, you can see, is like, I cannot make that up. Like, I cannot make that up. How it is one thing. I just shared that. Like, it's one idea that is going on, and you see, all of it is related to that. Is a whole part of it. And that's such a lovely, say, way of inspiration of sharing this with the purpose to go beyond this, not to keep not to keep having these meetings, not to keep doing that. No, to see that this meeting actually dissolves right now, right here, by your recognition of the truth. And we're actually, say, residing in the kingdom of heaven, where we just add our joy to the joy that is there, and more and more and more and more. So yeah, this is great. I love it. So this is our miracle work for today. Thank you so much for your attention and for being a whole part of this. And thank you for your joy, and thank you for your light. Thank you so much. I see you soon. Thank you.